Welcome to my channel Forever Celeb. At 80 years old, Cher is still hailed as indestructible. But no woman earns that title unless life relentlessly tests her, and she survives those trials. The world remembers her voice, her iconic black hair, the dazzling gowns, her Oscar, her sharp wit, and her remarkable comebacks, the miracle of belief. But behind all that glitter was a little girl who once learned that love could be real and yet fail to protect her. A young woman who fought fiercely to claim her own name. And now, as a mother, she wrestles with the harsh truth that fame, fortune, and willpower cannot always save a child in time. Cher did not become unstoppable because life was easy. She became unstoppable because each time something was taken, be it a home, a marriage, a version of family, a piece of youth, or the illusion that love saves all, she found the strength to rise again. Through the window of a Catholic orphanage, a small girl once waited for the face of the mother she loved. Too young to grasp how love could exist and yet leave her behind glass. Before the rhinestones, the Bob Mackie gowns, and the voice that would one day fill arenas, there was a child born in El Centro, California, in 1946. Her life was one of constant upheaval. Her mother, Georgia Holt, was beautiful, ambitious, and restless, a woman chasing dreams larger than the rooms available to her. Georgia wanted a stage, a song, a chance, but could give little steadiness to her daughter. Cher's father, John Paul Sarijan, was largely absent, an Armenian-American man battling heroin addiction. His absence filled a void that taught Cher early she could rely on no one but herself. Georgia moved often, different cities, different apartments, different men. There were times when food was scarce, electricity uncertain, and stability out of reach. Cher later reflected on these hardships with clarity, pain revisited many times but never fully leaving, she was different from the start. In the rigid social order of 1950s America, different was no compliment. Dark, exotic, half Armenian, struggling with undiagnosed dyslexia, she endured humiliation and isolation. She didn't fit in, and she decided early she would be different on purpose. Loudly. Unapologetically. Without asking permission. At 9, she told her mother, "I'm going to be famous." Georgia, who knew the cost of dreams better than most, did not laugh. She had raised a child who meant every word she said. At 16, Cher left school with $20 and a suitcase, fueled by unshakable conviction. She had no plan, only certainty she was destined for more. She took acting classes and worked as a waitress and housekeeper, absorbing Los Angeles with hungry eyes, storing every experience like fuel. Then she met Salvatore Philip Bono, Sonny Bono. Sonny was 10 years her senior, streetwise, connected, confident. He saw in Cher not just beauty, but a fierce refusal to be diminished. He fell in love and sought to shape her into his vision. For a time, she let him. She was 16. He was 26. She had $20 and a dream. He had power and plans. What she later realized was that survival was her greatest act in that relationship. Sonny believed in her before the world did. He built the scaffolding of a career that would outlast him. But he also controlled her, completely. Every dollar, every song, every public word passed through him. She was the voice. He was the architect. Together, they became Sonny and Cher. Their comedy show, from 1971 to 1974, drew 50 million weekly viewers. Millions watched a woman who wielded little control over her own career. She filed for divorce in 1975. Sonny warned her she was nothing without him. The world loved Sonny and Cher. Not Cher alone. She learned otherwise, but not without cost. The years that followed were difficult. Solo career struggles, failed TV specials, broken relationships. Yet she persevered. Then came her breakthrough acting career. Hollywood initially rejected her, viewing her as a TV personality or pop star rather than a serious actress. Auditions were humiliating. Dismissals were routine. But she kept going. Studied. Took small roles. Performed in New York theater where she felt whole. She broke through with Sybil, 1976, Places in the Heart, 1984, Mask, 1985, and Moonstruck, 1987. At 41, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for Places in the Heart. Her acceptance speech was composed, a moment 2 decades in the making. But the real victory was years of silent refusals to quit. The Oscar was recognition, not the battle itself. The world knows Cher by her voice, defiance, and timeless presence. But that image is incomplete. In the early 1990s, just as she reached the pinnacle, her body began to betray her. Fatigue unlike any other settled deep into her bones. Muscle aches came unpredictably. Headaches lingered. Mental fog clouded her mind. She pushed through until her body demanded surrender. She was finally diagnosed with chronic Epstein-Barr virus, a condition only recently understood. No cure existed, only a new reality of limits. She canceled tours. Withdrew from the public eye. Rumors and tabloids filled the silence. The truth was quieter and more painful. A woman lying in darkness, stripped of identity. For someone who survived by becoming, forced stillness was a crisis. Amid this, her son Elijah Blue Allman grew up. Born in 1976 to Cher and rock legend Greg Allman, Elijah's life was blessed yet troubled. Sensitive and creative, he carried his mother's intensity and his father's shadows. He watched Cher survive everything. But that legacy came with heavy cost. Growing up in such a shadow can isolate and teach that pain is something to perform through, not to feel freely. Elijah learned survival's language but lacked his mother's armor. Substance abuse offered numb relief. The cost came later. And when it came, it struck them both fiercely. There is courage the world rarely applauds, not the spotlight's courage, but the quiet private battle. A parent's desperate fight, the ultimate paradox of love. In September 2023, Cher filed to become Elijah's conservator. He was 47. The petition detailed his struggles with addiction and mental health, asserting he could no longer care for himself. Behind the legal language was a mother's heartbreak. A woman watching her son slip away despite everything. Elijah contested the petition, asserting his autonomy. The law respected his rights. The case dragged on while media reduced grief to sensational headlines. What the headlines missed was Cher's lived reality. At 79, she faced powerlessness, the hardest place for a parent. She invested millions in treatment. Traveled cross-country on desperate missions. Loved fiercely, without pause or reprieve. By 2024, whispers of concern about her health grew. The relentless years had worn on her extraordinary spirit. Yet she fights still. Not for applause or closure. But for the truth known intimately by parents of addicted children. Love is not always enough. Money is not always enough. Fame is not enough. But she endures. Because giving up was never her language. This is where true transformation lives. Not in awards or sold-out arenas. But in courtrooms. In love unseen, unphotographed, uncelebrated. At 79, Cher's legacy transcends records and fame. It is the indomitable refusal to be diminished. She refused to be poor forever. She refused to be owned. She refused to be dismissed. She refused to be defined by marriages, divorces, age, or illness. And now, at an age when most make peace with life's shape, she refuses one last thing. She refuses to let her son go without a fight. Not because she knows she'll win. But because she knows love's power, and its limits. Because, at the beginning, we asked. What do you do when the one you die for won't let you help them live? Her answer has been consistent through every impossible challenge. You keep going. You show up. You refuse to disappear. Not because victory is guaranteed, but because stopping is not in your nature. The little girl who vowed at 9 she would be famous. The teenager who arrived with $20 and fierce conviction. At 79, with everything on the line, Cher speaks the only language she's ever known. She is still here. Still fighting. Still Cher.